Hey everyone, it's Tyler, host of the Tyler Knows Everything podcast, where the nose is crossed out because I always want to learn more. My guest today is a jack of all trades and a master of none. His name is Eddie Strickland, and I want to give a special thanks to Taiku Drain for sponsoring the studio costs for this month. Please welcome Eddie Strickland.
Tyler
knows
everything.
All right, everybody, we're here with Eddie Strickland, another friend of mine, and I've had a few friends on because my circle of friends is so interesting. You know, there's so many things that you can learn from each episode that I've had so far. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback that says, you know, I've listened to this one over and over because it spoke to me and I learned so many things. So thanks for coming.
Hey, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I've watched, quite a few of your videos now, and you have the same thing that I do. You collect interesting people. Mm-hmm. My mom, whenever I was growing up, she said that when it comes to my friends, they're never traditional.
Right.
Always somebody. And really and truly, I feel like friendship should be, you know, not only do you have that bond with each other, but you want to have somebody that teaches you something.
Right.
You know, and that's why most of my friends, that's what they are. They're someone that, and I could have them for 30 years and they're still teaching me life lessons. Mm-hmm. So that's really why, that's why I kind of get attracted to people that are that way.
Yeah, I usually call it someone who adds value to your life. 100%. Because you don't want that toxic friend that is always a strain.
You know, it's funny. I've seen on some of your other podcasts, you've done some, especially with the Damon West podcast, he talked about that friendship circle and, who's in your circle and who's done,
show me who you hang out with and I'll show you who you are.
And the statement that if there's 4 millionaires and a non-millionaire hang out with each other in 5 years, there'll be 5 millionaires.
Yeah, most likely.
That's one, I really do believe that. And it's, also with that, keep your circle tight. Right. You want to have lots, and the way I kind of put it is I have lots of acquaintances. Mm-hmm. I have lots of people that I know, and I'd be, I'm willing to go out to dinner with them. I'd be willing to go on a weekend trip or something like that with them. But to me, you have a core friend. You have a core group of friends, and it may be as small as 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
And so that's, I have about 4 or 5 people that you would trust with your life. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have those people that are outside that core group that you still love them and you help them when you can.
100,
and do things.
Yeah.
But that core group is the ones, I usually say the 3 things. You can trust them with your wallet, your car keys, and your wife.
And it really is. You got the ones that, you've got the ones that you call when you're in jail.
Yeah.
And then you got the ones that are going to be sitting beside you because they're going to be,
they might be in there with you.
That's right. So
telling a cool story.
No, but just as an aside, coming into it for the introduction, really after watching the guys you've had on, Jody, and growing up in Beaumont, and I graduated in '89 at Central here in Beaumont, and so everybody, all people my age, know Jody's story.
Right.
My wife. Originally, and I can't remember exactly, but before Jody started at World's Gym, hang on a second, I'm adjusting my headset.
Oh, yeah. You've got those long flowing locks of hair.
Here's the thing is I haven't had long hair in 20 years.
Oh, okay.
And I told Tracy, my wife Tracy, the other day, about October, November, I was like, I'm going to see what it looks like grown out again. So I've had it trimmed a little bit since then. So if you're seeing me now with long hair, you probably don't recognize me with long hair.
Yeah.
So, but I just thought it might be interesting to see what it looks like.
Yeah, I think you should rock it, man.
So it's working. I said I would give it a year to see what it looks like, but to me, it's looking pretty good. So I mean, not to be
lots of headbands when you work out.
Well, it's gotten to the point now when I wear our headband, the hair comes over the top. Yeah, and it comes down, so you have to. I had to work at it a little bit.
Every burpee, slaps you in the face.
Yeah, that's the evil burpees. So, yeah, for Tyler and I are in that. Well, we don't call it. It's a cult, but it's a good cult.
Yeah,
but it's a good cult.
We do things that improve your life. Which it's CrossFit that is what we're talking about. And it's a great community of people that are very driven. It's definitely not one of the cheapest gyms. And so it's going to be people that are there to work. They're going to show up. Sometimes Planet Fitness is $10 a month. You could go several months. You may not show up and you don't care. You don't really notice $10 in your 100%. Bank account. But something that's over $100 a month, you're going to go. You know, if you stop showing up, you're just going to quit.
Well, and not to be a CrossFit commercial, but think of the value that it gives you. I can pay $40 to go someplace else, and it's got all the equipment, it's got everything there. But if I don't know what I'm doing, and I've got a degree in kinesiology, so I know what I'm doing. But if someone else was to go, unless they hire a personal trainer who's certified and knows what they're doing, you're getting a personal trainer every time you go in, and that's up to 6 days a week. So
and for me, it's about the intensity, because you and I both know what we were doing if we went to a normal gym, but I can guarantee you I'm not going to work out as hard as I would standing in front of a mirror doing curls as I would if I had a coach and a class of people that I'm trying to compete against.
I tell people all the time that I do things there that I would never make myself do.
Yeah.
Because and you're accountable to everybody that's there, and I'm big on personal responsibility and accountability. So they keep you accountable towards you.
Yeah, for sure.
But back, real quick, just talking about the guys you've had before, having me on, I feel like I really and truly do. You've had some guys that are just, their stories are just amazing. They're just amazing humans. With John. Business guy, development. I have so much respect for entrepreneurs, even like Jody, and I mean, you can't say enough about Damon. So.
Yeah. And the cool thing about Jody is a lot of people have known him in this area for a long time, but they didn't know that story because that happened when he was 19.
Absolutely.
And you wouldn't know it from talking to him and seeing his, career history in the movies, that he almost, died in a coma with minus 100 pounds.
Yeah.
So it was really neat to see people that knew him that never knew that story. A lot of people that have been here since then, they knew as he grew up, like you, for example.
Absolutely.
But I've always had you in that category as a guy that knows a little bit about everything.
That's Tracy would absolutely agree with you. It's the old jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
So and that's something that I kind of attribute that more to. I would call it. That I enjoy reading. You might call it voraciously. My mom and I make this joke: if you don't have 3 books, if you're not reading 3 books currently, then you're not reading. So and that's I feel like that's a big part of it. And another thing, one of the things I teach my 2 kids is I have this rule of, when in doubt, if I'm trying to decide if I want to do something, I want to try something new, there's something coming up, and you're having that self-doubt, which everybody has. I don't know. Would I be good at that? Is that something that would, first of all, if it's life-threatening for my kids, like obviously that's a no.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't come up no, the answer is always yes. So, and I've done.
Are your kids adult age yet?
My daughter's 16.
Okay.
And my son's 14. She'll be a
almost,
junior. Yeah. She'll be a junior. Just started driving. Yay. But she'll be a junior, and my son will be a freshman this year over at Westbrook.
Yeah.
So
that's a very influential time for them, the young teenagers.
Well, and in this, I coached for the number kind of, it's 12, 15 years, something like that.
Right.
So I've dealt with I've taught high school.
Yeah, in the public school
system.
In the
public school system. And I really and truly, that's the last influence you have on them. And you hope that you raised them right. And I say all the time, I've raised that. My job wasn't to let me kind of put it this way. I'm not a helicopter parent.
Yeah.
My job is to raise adults.
Right.
I will help my kids as long as I'm alive, because, they're my most cherished possession. But the term the idea that I put out there is that if something happened to Tracy and I when they turned 18, they'd be able to live their life fully without pause.
Right.
I mean, other than to grieve, but without pause, and not miss anything.
Yeah.
I don't want them to be 26 and having to live at our house unless their circumstances lead to that. If they're still living at the house because they're getting a doctorate, okay, got it. That's something but if I want them to be adults, take care of their own business at that age. So.
Yeah, my daughter, she just turned 13, and on the Sunday afternoon, our favorite thing to do is go to the school that has a long carpool line, and she drives.
You go see, and you're teaching her those life lessons. I agree. And that falls back into that. And I know lots of parents are like this. Should I let them? she's only 13, but it's in a closed environment. Why not start teaching her now? Yeah, you could say no, you could say yes. Why not say yes?
Yeah.
And see where it goes.
There's a lot of 16 and 17-year-olds that don't want to drive. They're still catching rides with their parents. And I'm thinking back to when I was turned 16, I was counting down the days. I turned 16 on a Tuesday, and I said, I'm going to town. And my dad's, for what? It's a Tuesday night. I said, I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
I'm just going to go drive around because I can.
And I think part of that has to do, and I'm not a Luddite. I'm not someone who's anti-technology. I'm very pro-technology. I've got my second degree is in engineering. So obviously, that's where I kind of feel comfortable in that technology. I try to be a new adapter. Well, but I think part of that with kids that age, and I know you see this constantly, that screen time.
Yeah. But
the advantage, and it can be bad, and there are bad parts of that, but there are also good parts of it. Think about when you were, 14, 15 years old, you wanted to hang out with your friends. If they didn't live close enough for you to ride your bike or walk to, there's nothing, and you can call them on the phone, but then your parents are going to tell you to get off, after a while. And well, now they can talk to their friends. I know my son plays games with his friends on the computer, and I can hear them laughing and talking and back and forth all the time. And so it's not necessarily a bad thing. You just have to monitor how much they do and make sure that they understand that that's not their whole life.
Yeah. For me, I try to use technology as a tool.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Being able to answer a question, home improvement with a YouTube video, tons of times.
But, on that same subject, I bought a used Jeep. Well, I can't tell you, and I try to do a lot of work, just because I kind of enjoy it, but I try to do some of the work on the Jeep itself. Well, you watch YouTube videos, a few of them, you're like, okay, I can do that myself. And you think about it, it's almost like having a teacher there for you if used right.
Yeah, for sure, because there's tons of videos about literally every subject of how to something. And we didn't ever have that before YouTube. There was manuals and you could go read or maybe go to the library, but there wasn't a lot of visual content. As far as that, maybe one cable program of home improvement that you just have to catch, and it just depends on whatever they're looking at that particular day, building a deck or whatever. Now it's just on demand.
And that's, and I understand both sides of the issue, and I try to, that's, my whole kind of political philosophy and stuff like that is that I know what I believe, but, I want to know both sides, and there's pitfalls, there's pros and cons to all of that. But I agree, in 15 seconds right now, if we came up with a subject like, hey, we want to know how to, it's like the other day, my water heater went out at my house. And it sounds easy, but, and it was, but you can pull that up in a 5-minute video. They can say, hey, make sure this and this and this. And if you,
and I bet there's at least 100 versions. And some of them are actual plumbers that have channels because they're doing it for advertisement. And a lot of us, you just kind of look at the ones with the highest ratings and the most views.
Probably and you watch a few of them. You don't go, you go, you watch 4 or 5 just to kind of make sure that you've got the general idea and that somebody doesn't have a better idea or somebody's not, doing something different. But I know it's like, for instance, this always blows my mind is that there's 2 things that I think that people have lost their awe of, and they're kind of tied together. Number one, and this is completely off. I know we are Alice right now. We have dipped down that rabbit hole and we are gone. Because my mind works probably the same way yours does. I will hit a tangent and we can go. This conversation I was telling Tracy before I came over here. She was like, "What are y'all going to talk about?" And I said, "I have no idea." Yeah. I said, "You've lived with me for." We've been married 21 years and dated for 10 years before that. You've been with me 31 years. When have we had a conversation that ended where we started?
Yeah, you're kind of one of the first guests that I didn't have an outline plan because I didn't need to. Yes. I said, we're going to be able to fill an hour, no problem.
Oh, yeah, easily.
If I ever have a guest that comes in here and talks about one topic for an hour, they're fired. They're never coming back.
That's exactly right. And, and that's, you name a topic and I love, like I tell Tracy, I can make something up on the spot and we can go with it. But, talking about that phone that you have in your pocket or, that's on the table over there, that the computing power in that is, and considering it's connected to the cloud. Yeah. It's just, that's a tool of just unfathomable ability.
Yeah. In high school, I had to look for encyclopedias to do a report.
And I'll think back, because I know you're a big NASA guy. you do realize that a human walked on the moon in 1969.
Right.
I mean, think about it. I think about this all the time. You know, let's say ancient Greece or Rome or Persia or China, or there's a guy sitting there, and there's these, and it's hubris to think that we're smarter than they are. Humans have been, for the last however long, have had the same pretty much level of intelligence.
Right.
I mean, there may be a few points that we've increased over the years, but
yeah, they just didn't have the technology.
Exactly.
Right.
And you think there's a guy sitting on his back going, God, I would love to get to the moon. I would love to be the first human to walk on the moon. And we've done it.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about how amazing that accomplishment is. I mean, that would be, you would think 2,000 years ago, you're thinking that and you're looking at that. And if somebody did that, you would think we would celebrate that for 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how even during that decade, the very first one, of course, everybody sat in the living room and they watched it, and it was, nobody watched anything else other than that. And after they got to trip number 3, maybe 4,
it's old hat. Yeah,
the astronauts' families would be sitting in the living room, and they were saying, "Well, I thought Dad was going to be on the TV, and there's like a football game, and they say, well, it's kind of old. They're calling NASA saying, where is it? And they're, well, we got pushed back because of this." Nobody even cares after just a few times.
I got you one thing. This is something that, they farmed out a lot of the math all over the place.
To humans.
Yeah. To calculators being human calculators.
Right.
And then when I was getting my engineering degree out at Lamar, there's a room in the engineering department that's kind of reserved for mechanical engineering. That's kind of a space where it's not really a lounge area, but you can use it. You can space, like I was on the Baja team where we built a Baja kind of
like a sand buggy?
Yes.
Okay.
And, we built it from scratch. They provided us with the 1 horsepower Honda engine, and we had to build it, frame, all the suspension, all that stuff. And then you race it against other teams in Tennessee. But when I was in there, we were kind of going through the cabinets because I was looking for some space to kind of start storing some stuff that we needed. And I pulled out this manual, and it's a manual of projected lunar landing trajectories.
Oh, wow.
From NASA from like 1968. And you're like, why is this not? It's just still in the cabinet.
Yeah, why is it not in the case?
I'm going to tell you what, Tyler. When you have those moments when you're like, the definition of character is what you do when no one's looking.
Yeah, should I throw this in my backpack and run?
I'm telling you right now, there was a character issue right there because I just love to have that piece of history there. Mm-hmm. So, but I don't know where that's going. But.
Yeah, well, thinking back to your experience with public education,
okay.
I saw a meme the other day that said it was a student talking to the public school and said, "Hey, I really would like to learn how to file my taxes, balance a bank account, save for a Roth IRA." And the public school said, "Shut up and square dance."
Yeah. Well, I thought about this coming in as like, who was I going to make mad? Who was I going to upset?
Yeah.
But with the public schools,
we're going to offend somebody.
Before it's inevitable. Yeah, we will. I really think that they should definitely do a personal finance / how to live your life thing. I mean, even if it's just to the point where it's like, hey, how do you change a tire?
Yeah. And I think some of them have implemented it recently. I usually reference to back when I was in school in the 90s, and there's none of that going on. Because when I bring it up nowadays, I hear current teachers like in 2019 say, "Oh, well, there's a bank in our or a credit union in our commons area."
Westbrook has one.
Yeah, and they host a class. They let students work there. And so I think they are getting better with some of the life skills. Well, and some of the trades too. Port Arthur ISD actually has a welding department and a body shop. I was really impressed the last time I visited there.
There's 2 tracks, and it's oddly enough, I'm going to tell you, there's one of the places I coached at was West Hardin out in Saratoga. And
so that's very rural.
It's very rural. Mm-hmm. It's funny. I tell a story about the first day I was at the field house, and when I was when we came in there, some of the players came up to visit us, and one of the first days, I don't know if it was the first, but it may have been the second or third. One of the guys brought his pet baby goat up.
Yeah,
and so he's in the field house with us with this baby goat because they'd raised goats. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, Another day, we come up there and there's two guys working out in the weight room, but they had ridden their horses up there. And so in the parking lot, they had tied their horses up out there. Now, here's the thing. There are some great kids out there. There are. Now, they have some, economically, guys that are challenged. Yeah. And, but you know what they did do? And the administration that I had at the time, and their school board and stuff really did a great job of, they had two areas that I thought were great. They had distance learning, which means when they got to be juniors in high school, if they wanted to, they could take classes at Lamar that counted towards credit. And I know a lot of schools have implemented that now.
And that's huge. We had that, and I said absolutely no. I was there to, have fun my senior year and have an easy senior year. And if I could go back, of course, many things that we would do differently, I would have done it in a heartbeat to get those first few basics out of the way, English and the math. Because I would much rather take English and math in kind of a quasi high school college version than show up and take college algebra as a college freshman.
And not have a clue.
Yeah.
And, but there's two things on that, every time I my mind's going a couple of different places.
Yeah.
But I've got a comment about that, about my own daughter here, and both Grant and Jules.
It's amazing how there's so many things we would do differently, and we try to pass that knowledge on to our youth, but they still do the same thing. And as many generations that have gone through over and over, most of us are in a third-year generation if our grandparents are still alive, or maybe even great-grandparents. And there's that vast amount of knowledge, and we still screw up.
And I it's funny. I tell my parents all the time because my family is known for longevity is not necessarily our strong suit. My mom's the oldest person.
So lifespan about 70, maybe. Or
yeah,
if it's good.
Yeah, if they're doing good.
What's taking everybody down?
Well, I was born in both my mom and dad grew up in rural Alabama.
Okay.
And it was a one company. They had a cotton mill that was there. And when they were growing up, the example, and my dad will be embarrassed if I tell you this, but I can't tell you how proud I am of my parents. And I don't tell them that often. I probably don't. By the way, Mom and Dad, I love you. Just so if I don't say that often.
Dad's still alive in
Dad
Alabama?
and Mom are both. No, they're actually, they live here.
Okay.
They live in Lumberton.
Oh, nice.
And, but it's kind of the story. If my story is interesting, I always want to know what somebody else's story is other than, my story. But I'll tell it because it's my dad and my mom's story. My dad graduated high school and he had a couple options. He was a valedictorian of his high school. They had like 13 people in. Graduated. I'm pretty sure it was valedictorian. He may have been salutatorian, but I believe he was captain of his basketball team, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But when he graduated, his options were going to work at the cotton mill.
Yeah.
So this is the height of Vietnam.
Or moving to a
not even an option. It's not even something that occurs to you when you grow up in rural Alabama.
Yeah.
And I still go back there and I love everybody there. And but it wasn't a place that you could expand. You could, no one went to college.
Right.
1967, 68, somewhere right in there, he joins the military. Goes and joins the military. Why? Because they can teach him a skill. He goes into the Air Force, spends a year in Vietnam during the Tet Offensive. Said he was there for 3 months. Whenever the Tet Offensive hit, he said never even saw a rifle because he did electronics. So that was his skill that he learned. And so he went to Vietnam. They had a radar truck. He said he was probably the safest person in all of Vietnam because it was their radar trucks would guided all the planes. B-52s, all the fighter jets and stuff like that.
Yeah, because that's when radar was really more
infancy.
prevalent.
Yeah. And that was. I mean, the stuff they were doing was the high tech stuff. That was the super high tech, which would be almost like a cyber warfare at this point because that's how high tech it was at the time. What he was doing.
Right.
So he does that. My mom is at home. My mom has graduated high school. They got, if I remember correctly, my mom was still in high school when they got married.
And that's common in some of those smaller towns.
Yeah, absolutely. And back in the 60s, whenever they were, and
because you're an adult at 18,
exactly right,
moving out of the house.
And so he came back, went to work for Xerox, and that's how then we lived all over, a lot of different, he would transfer, but mainly.
So he got
Alabama.
in with Xerox kind of in their infancy too.
They were like IBM at the time.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, he tells a story that Bill Gates brought Microsoft to Xerox and said, "Hey, we want to do this." Now, whether that's true or not, but
yeah,
and Xerox was like, "I think we'll pass on."
Xerox did great with their branding because instead of someone saying, "Can you make a copy of this?" they said, "Can you
It's
Xerox
the Kleenex.
it?"
It's the Kleenex of copies. Yeah.
Right.
And it's a great company. I mean,
Band-Aid instead of bandage.
Exactly.
Same thing. Coke, and you call every soft drink a Coke. Yeah.
At least in the South, we do.
Yeah. I did hear that's different up north. Everything. If it's carbonated, it's Coke. People.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And
unless it's Dr. Pepper, we do specify.
Well, they ask you, do you want a Coke? Yeah. What kind?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so, but no. Then we moved in 1981. I was living in Montgomery. Went to elementary school there. That's where I get my Alabama Crimson Tide
sports fan.
Yeah, that's where I get that fandom, is because January 1st, 1979, the first year I played football, and I played tackle the first year.
Which is probably mandatory if you live there.
Yeah,
yeah. You don't have the choice to be.
No, you just got to. Yeah, you're a big guy. Yeah, you got it. Come on, you're out. You're out. Get out there.
There's no OU fans or
no. You at birth. When you come out, they ask you at birth. Are you Roll Tide or War Eagle, and whatever you say, that's what you get. So then that's what you got to be for the rest of your life. You get divorces and all that kind of stuff over that stuff. Right. But for the first football game I ever watched all the way through was January 1st, 1979, Penn State, Alabama, when Bear Bryant beat Joe Paterno and they had the big goal line stand. I watched it with my dad and my Uncle Martin. I remember that to this day. So that's kind of how you get those ties, But my dad was one of those guys that both my parents sacrificed everything that they had for their kids. I mean,
Did you have many siblings?
I have an older sister and a younger brother. Okay. And so my sister's about 4 or 5 years older than I am. My brother's about 4 years younger than I am. And so in 1981, Texas was booming. They offered him a job out in Texas. I moved to Beaumont, and I've been a Texan ever since. Wow. It took a long time for me to kind of, you got a rural kid from Alabama.
What happened to the Alabama accent?
Since I've been here so long.
Okay.
But if I go back, even to this day, because I was 11 when I left, but even to this day, if I'm there for any length of time, then it'll start to come back.
Yeah, because people from the north, I've been in Texas all my life. I was born here. They think I have a country accent. No. I said, well, hey, have you ever met someone from Alabama?
Well, and it's funny. I tell people this all the time. If you have a Southern accent, I can just about pinpoint where you come from. Yeah. Because, the
Cajun for sure.
Yeah. That whole Louisiana, and that's south of I-10.
Yeah.
There's an accent south of I-10 in Louisiana that bleeds over a little bit into this part of Texas. A little bit. You still have some of those people, especially in Orange and Port Arthur and stuff like that.
If their last
Bridge
name
City.
ends with an X.
Yes.
Then they probably have it.
And then, but I can tell if you're from Tennessee, you get that Appalachia bleed into it. If you're from Georgia, you get a lot more of that syrup into it.
What's Mississippi? Maybe same as Alabama.
It's Mississippi, Alabama are real similar.
Yeah. And, so close together.
Yeah.
And same people.
And then you got Florida, which,
Florida's just got crazy people.
Well, yeah. It's funny. The rule on Florida, right?
What's that?
The further north you go, the deeper in the South. The more south you get, the further north you go. So, but with Florida, you got so many influence in there. And I love the fact that we live in Texas. I cannot tell you how happy I am that my kids were born in Texas. It's one of the best things I told Tracy. I was like, with she and I, it's like it was a long journey for the two of us to meet and get together. And so,
I've never lived anywhere else.
And I've been to lots of other places. We travel a lot. We try to, and I love other cultures. I love being other places. I love meeting people from different places and seeing people from other, where the way they approach life. But having lived other places, for me personally, I don't want to live any place other than Texas, even though the beaches in Florida, are more beautiful.
Yeah.
And we may end up having like a beach house there, that we can rent out and stuff like that. But Texas is Texas.
Oh yeah. You can find everything. You can find beaches, you can find desert, you can find plains, you can
Hills.
find hill country,
Yep.
you can find snow in certain parts. You can find Big Ben.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
On the border there.
And that's something, that's really and truly you could spend years just traveling around Texas.
Yeah, you could.
So,
There's so many things to see, so much history, and so many different types of landscapes. Sure.
But
now
shifting back,
our beaches are a little bit.
Well, and that's because of Mississippi.
Yeah,
and
we're on
I finally defined it for myself.
Yeah.
In Florida, on that Gulf Coast, I found out why their beaches are sand white. If you've never been to a Florida Gulf Coast beach,
as soon as you get to Gulf Shores, and then the further you go, it gets more and more green and white sand.
The Appalachia has a lot of quartz in it, and all that sand is quartz, and that's why it's so white. I found that out last time.
Yeah, and we've got Mississippi mud.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what it is, really. And so when you go to our beach, it's a lot finer. If you go to Florida Beach and the sand dries on you, you can brush it off, and you're clean.
Right.
Here, it's just now. Not that I don't love, because we were just down there not too long ago, had a good time.
Yeah.
But it's as far as beauty of the beach goes, but Texas got so much to offer.
So your dad would probably be considered a baby boomer?
Oh yeah,
right?
Absolutely. He was born in 46.
Yeah.
I believe so.
And I'm on the edge of what they call Generation X and Millennial. Some people classify born in 82 as a millennial. Some people Generation X. I usually say I identify more with Generation X because my first cell phone wasn't until college, but then it was a bag phone, so we didn't carry it around.
Yeah.
My first smartphone, I was already an adult, already out of college, so it would be harder to identify with the millennials because I'm on the edge there. But
so you're kind of like my brother. He's like my brother was born in 76. You're born in 82, so you are within
kind of the
pretty close.
Same technology. Yeah. We were still rocking a 8-bit Nintendo and Sega Genesis.
Absolutely.
Not a lot of connectivity going on. Internet wasn't a thing until high school. It was a dial-up. Not everybody had it. Not everybody had a computer even. And when we finally got one, which was the huge tower with about 300 megabytes of hard drive, it was like $3,000.
Oh, yeah.
It was like a family decision. Like they had to sit around the table and say like, should we finance this? Do we really need it? Blah, blah, blah. Now you just go pick up a $100 laptop.
I can honestly tell you that at my house, all four of us have laptops. My son has a gaming computer.
Yeah.
My daughter is right now, if this ever happens, cleaning her room to put his old gaming computer in it. And I know we have 2 old laptops.
Yeah, and imagine quoting that in 1995.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
But, I remember this, and you may or may not remember this, but in the 70s, late 70s, when we were little kids, let's say 8, 9 years old, I can remember people telling you need to get in computers. If you grow up and get into computers, and you're thinking at the time, because you don't know, you're thinking, is that a fad? Is that something you get into? And then but they'll say, oh, you have a computer everywhere with you. And it really is hard to imagine that at that time, thinking we've got a computer right there on, in our hand.
Right.
That, that, like we said earlier, that you can
completely outperforms anything that was available back then.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
and some of them were the size of rooms.
That Commodore 64 you're playing.
And at the time when you were at Lamar, they probably had a supercomputer that was really nice, and it took up an entire.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny that
with the tape reels.
I can remember when we were my senior year of high school. We had to do a research paper, and my mom typed it for me on an IBM Selectric, with the wheel, and they wouldn't let you print it off, do it on computer in a dot matrix because they didn't like the dot matrix because it was all dot matrix printers.
Yeah, it was real faint and hard to read.
And even by the time I got finished with my first degree, of course, I was on the decade program when I was out there, but that's where you get a 4-year degree in about 6 years.
So I kind of did the same thing. Did you do student loans, or what'd you end up doing? You're going back to my parents. Okay.
And my parents, I would have to say that's the greatest gift. And this is the same thing we've told our kids, both Jules and Grant, except for the fact that where they may end up going. But my parents said, as long as you keep your grades up, which I didn't always succeed in doing the first degree, but said their biggest gift was I had no college debt when I walked out of college.
Yeah.
They paid with credit cards. And, my parents, I cannot express how much my parents sacrificed for me and my brother and my sister.
Yeah, and mine as well. Both my parents were coaches and teachers, and so not a lot of excess funds. But luckily, I was an only child. I didn't have any siblings, so there was more money to go around because there was just one kid. And they did the same thing for me because they felt like college education was very important. So we kind of did like a pay as you go. I only have like a super small student loan at the end because it took so long, And after a while, they were kind of like, all right, you got to do your thing now. Yeah. But this hashtag started floating around a couple weeks ago, hashtag cancel student debt. And some of the candidates wanted to just wipe the slate clean with all the student debt that's out there right now. And what Dan Crenshaw was saying is that the people that are going to wipe out the student debt is going to be a lot of people that have either already paid their own college debt or didn't go to college because they couldn't afford it, and they're going to be paying for someone else's loan.
Yeah, they're going to retroactively pay for everybody's college loan throughout history and into the past too.
No, it's just going to be whoever happened to get a loan.
This is where we're going to get a little political.
Yeah.
You know what? You know why college is so expensive. And I'll give you an example, and not to call anybody out, but I've looked at this because of what my daughter wants to do. She's 16. She says she doesn't want to be a genetic engineer. She wants to do something in genetics.
Okay.
But the program that she wants to go to, the undergraduate degree is at Johns Hopkins.
Yeah.
$350,000 to get that.
So that's degree. A private college, right?
Private college.
Yeah.
So now, but so it's not a state school. And it's not an in-state, obviously, but just give you an example of how expensive college can be. But, well, you know as well as I do, and I want to say it was 2010, but it may have been 2007 or 8. Why has the price of college freaking skyrocketed?
It seems like there's too many extravagant things.
There's one reason.
Yeah.
Who is in charge of the student loan program now?
Oh, well, yeah. That would make sense too.
Because think about it.
The interest is huge.
Well, and you think about it. If private citizens are having to pay for this college, and you say, hey, it's going to cost you $70,000 a semester to go to my school, you know who's going to go there? The people you give a scholarship to, and no one else, because no one can afford it.
Right.
But if the government, and remember this, when we say that the government is paying for it,
it's really taxpayers.
It's you paying for it.
Because the government doesn't have its own money.
That's right.
The government doesn't generate revenue.
That's right.
The government takes revenue.
That's right.
And you see that every 1st and 15th.
Now you see, and I tell that this is I can't decide if I'm a libertarian with conservative leanings or conservative with libertarian leanings.
Yeah.
But so I'm one of the other. But do I have a problem with not classic liberals in the sense of being libertarian, classic liberal? But as far as somebody who's a liberal, I don't want to get too far, but I have a problem with leftists. I don't have a problem with liberals. Mm-hmm. Like, you and I both know, we're people that we work out with that are relatively, I have zero personal problems with them.
Yeah, friends with everybody.
Well, Jefferson said that politics should never be a reason to end a friendship.
Sure.
Because so, and I 100% agree with that. Matter of fact, I love just talking to them. Let's set up a political discussion. I'd be more than happy. Change my mind. Absolutely. Tell me I am open to your ideas. Give me good, solid, reasoning behind it. But
yeah, one of the episodes that hasn't come out yet is a young Democrat from Austin.
That would be great.
Joseph Trahan. And we sat down and talked. And I showed everybody how, look, we're friends before this started and we're friends afterwards. And we had this conversation. And,
I would love to meet him.
Yeah.
Just because.
For example, he's kind of the assistant to Nick Lampson, who's a former congressman.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
his mom lives in my neighborhood.
Yeah, so I'm going to have Nick on the show because who wouldn't want to have a former congressman? And people may say, well, hey, I thought you were a Republican. Why aren't you having more? And I said, well, I don't need to constantly sit down with people who agree with me. I want to sit down with people who disagree. And I think you'd be surprised at some of the stuff that we may agree on and also how cordial we can be. Like, I'm not going to bring former Congressman Lampson here and debate him. I'm going to talk about what's going on your side. Here's what's going on my side. What can we do to work that out?
Well, and and I 100% agree. And think about this: what if he brings something up that you can't counter?
Yeah.
if he brings something that you can't counter, and now I'm not saying immediately because I'm a thought person. I can't tell you how many times, like in this, when we get finished here, 2 days from now, we'll meet each other at the gym and be like, I'm like, oh, Tyler, I should have said this and this because I overthink stuff about like
for
that.
Sure. Almost every podcast on the drive home, I'm like, man, I should have brought this up or I should have said it like that. But that's what's always great about coming back about 20 episodes later.
That would be, and I hope this goes over well. And I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
Just so you know. And
that's a big part of doing the podcast. When people say, why did you start a podcast? Obviously this doesn't make any money. It's all self-funded with the equipment and the editing and the, renting the space. It's a big personal fulfillment. Your mood is immediately elevated and happy, and you get to meet a lot of interesting people. And it's kind of the highlight of your day when you get to come in here.
Well, and I'll tell you this too, after watching all the podcasts that you've done so far, it's not an ego thing. To me, you're letting the people talk because you're like I am. And that the hard part I'm having right now is not, I was a Socratic method kind of teacher. I would ask questions. I would ask questions and lead you to the answer. And so I have you don't know, about 4 times now I've stopped and wanted to get on to, hey, let's get on to Tyler's point of view. Let's see what you think about things. Because I'm interested in what you think.
Right. And I like to focus on the guests because the listeners are going to hear me every time. They're only going to hear the guests that one time. So I try to give them, the floor, so to speak. And there's plenty of times where I'm a guest on another podcast. Me and A to Z are about to do a swap cast where I was a guest on their show. So they're going to release it on their channel. I'm going to release it on my channel. Okay. Some of their listeners can get exposed the bleed to me. Over. Yeah. Some of my listeners can check out those guys. That one will actually have a few more colorful metaphors than I usually have because me and we have a different vibe, and that's everything in here is kind of their decorations and stuff. So it's a little more eccentric.
But really and truly, if you saw my office I'm a little bit of, if you can't tell, I'm a little bit eccentric myself, as far as, I just want it to be, I love good craftsmanship, no matter what it is, I like interesting things. Yeah. I like things that make me think.
One of the trendy things we both got into around the same time maybe was the high-end bourbons and whiskeys that they started doing around town. And shout out to the, Longhorn and the Gulf Coast Spirit Society because they came up with the reviews and the tastings and the flights and some really cool venues that they were doing that.
Evan, Paul, Salvador over at Longhorn. By the way, another unsolicited plug. If you want to know somebody who, besides Mike, right? I can't leave out Jude at Deb's because Jude was really, really helped me a lot on learning stuff. But Salvador, Salvador's my man. He knows.
Me and Salvador have been talking, and he's going to come on the show. We'll do a little tasting on.
I just want to come stand in the room when you and Salvador talk.
Oh, it's going to be great.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's been a fan of the show since the beginning, so I always love to have the fans on anytime I can. But what I like about the classy whiskey and bourbon is it's a lot of, flavor finding and it's more than just going out and having beers and getting drunk with your friends. It's real intellectual about how they're going about the tastings and the history behind where it came from, especially with the Buffalo Trace Distillery. It seems like they're making all the cool stuff.
Absolutely. The BTAC stuff that they're putting out, what is it, Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, I believe. Yeah. And and they're doing some amazing stuff. And, on my side of it, I love the bourbons, but I'm a Scotch guy. And that's
usually like an older gentleman thing.
See, and that's, oh, by the way, I was going to say this. I noticed on your Jody Nolan podcast, you were like, when I meet those older gentlemen at the gym, I was like, wait, does that make me an older gentleman? And, I wore my shirt for you today.
Oh, yeah, let's check it out. But so the goal is to die young as late as possible.
So, and that's my, that's kind of my theory in life is that right now I'm 48. I'll be 49 in December, and I'm in better shape now. I feel younger. To me, it's just a mental attitude, and that's the way you've got to approach it. Is that,
yeah. Just the other day, I was at a restaurant here in town, and there was a man and a woman, a couple that was probably 70-ish, in their 70s. And I'm talking about to get from their table to the car, like completely stove up, like walkers, not because they're injured, but it looked like they were just,
because they stopped moving.
And I had to think, like, Chuck Norris is turning 80.
And just got his BJJ.
Yeah, he just got a black belt,
yeah.
and he's about to turn 80. And I think if you look at what he did, he stayed active, he did martial arts, he stretched. Maybe if I just never quit, I can end up with that same, range of mobility when I'm almost 80.
Well, and it's funny you say that. I say this when we go warm up in the gym. I don't know if you notice, I show up early every day because I have to, because you have to get up and I tell them,
you're there already when I get there, and then usually there when I leave.
And and the whole thing is that if I don't move, I don't see how people don't move. Because I feel so much more mobility whenever I do that. And I say this the other day. I have a friend of mine that it's one of my best friends, and he's 60. I want to say 64 now. He may be a little early, maybe 62. Scott, you may or may not met him, but it's a guy named Scott Smithart. And he lives here in Beaumont, or he lives in Silsbee, but he has a business here in Beaumont. He's had it for 32 years. Yeah. So anybody knows Scott? He owns Comics Kingdom over there on Phelan.
Oh yeah,
another plug.
I'm always curious about that.
You need to go
place.
in there and talk to him. He's a super interesting guy.
Because me, I'm a huge superhero fan, but it's all visual, like movies. Because I'm not much into the reading in the comics. But every time I drive by that store, it's packed.
Yeah, and you need to go by there and just talk. He's really a super. Back whenever he was in his. He's kind of. I feel like he's kind of like what I am, in the fact that he's always moved in his life. He's always, he used to be a power lifter. You know what SCA is? Society for Creative Anachronism.
Oh, okay, I've never heard of it.
All right. You ever seen the Renaissance Festival?
Yeah, for
the
sure.
heavy fighters, the guys who are doing rattan and the armor and stuff like that. It's the SCA. And he fought in that for a long time. Was really, really good. Matter of fact, I saw him.
So kind of like a reenactment, or it's a real fight.
It's a martial art.
Oh, geez.
It really is.
And he's got armor and weapons.
It's armor. You use armor a lot. It's either leather armor or you make it. You pretty much make. You can buy it, but
are they using wooden weapons?
It's rattan, which is wood. Now they've even got some rattan. Is
that like a bow staff?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll say this: if you're unprotected, it'll break a bone.
Yeah,
and
for
they
sure.
hit. But it's if you've never seen it, just look up Society for Creative or SCA fights, and you'll see what I'm talking about online. I'm getting off into my esoteric, just weird stuff now. But the other day he went out, and they were kind of sparring. He just kind of wanted to go see, because his son kind of does a little bit of it, and it's just like, hey, come up to meet me at Rogers Park, because they do some stuff at Rogers Park on the weekend. And he's like, come hang out with me, because I've done some in the past. So just because it's fun, it's just get to hit people with sticks as hard as you can. Yeah, it takes that aggression out.
Another cool thing about doing a fitness class in the middle of the day, like we usually work out on lunch break, is at any given moment you're in that room suffering through the same thing together with a federal judge, a police officer, lots of lawyers, business owners. School teachers that are out for the summer. I mean, you think about your network of friends and their job title and maybe their place in the community, and they're all on level playing ground for that 1 hour that you're suffering through fitness together.
You get I watched a podcast the other day that was talking about this, and I was trying to remember what it was. I would give credit to if I remember what it was, but they were talking about why military units had developed such a strong bond, and why, and go back on my cult here, but why CrossFit members hang out and do things together. Yeah, it's shared suffering.
Yeah, you're going through something.
Gives
same thing
you
as
a bond.
like a Navy SEAL team that goes through BUD/S.
100%.
They call themselves brothers because, I mean, geez, you stayed up for an entire week and had to be drowned and had to be tortured in cold water. So yeah, you're gonna love each other forever.
I won't tell you who they are, but I know personally one that's active SEAL and one that's a retired Navy SEAL. And they'll tell you right now that those guys are their brothers. I mean, they said that they are closer than blood. Yeah. He's, especially the one that's retired. He said if one of his guys called him, he'd drop whatever he's doing and go wherever in the world he needed him.
Yeah, you go through that, your whole mindset changes.
It really does. So,
yeah. And another thing I was reading about just today was Amazon Prime Day is coming up. So it's the 15th and the 16th, and they were going through what it takes to order a package and have it delivered like the next day if you want to. And it's kind of some controversial treatment of the warehouse employees where they have like a ranking system where you're rated, and the bathroom may be 6 minutes away from your station. And at the end of the day, they're talking about these employees that have walked like 15 miles, going back and forth and picking items. And Amazon did raise their minimum wage to 15. So they're starting out at 15, but there's so many people that are willing to work for Amazon. It seems like the managers have taken this approach of like, hey, there's a waiting list. So if your rating's not high enough, you can get out. And they're kind of having this constant turnover of who's the fastest. And it kind of made me think, I take that for granted because I order stuff on Prime all the time.
I do too.
And I'm thinking, man, did I cause someone to have a heat stroke because I ordered this item?
Yeah, but to me, being a free market guy, all that, and you can kind of get me on Amazon now because, Amazon has one of the reasons why they're able to be successful is they've got a special deal with with
the
postal service.
Post office. Yeah, they're using the post office as their errand boy.
Is that government picking a winner? Is that saying, hey, we're going to let Amazon do something that, company XYZ
doesn't
can't do? They don't get this advantage, so you're giving Amazon a competitive advantage. I'm not big on that. See, to me, one of the big knocks on capitalism, and I don't like capitalism because actually capitalist is a Marxist word, but free market.
Oh, okay. Free market.
I don't care. I use capitalism too.
Yeah.
But one of the knocks on capitalism is that that big business develops monopolies. Mm-hmm. Well, those don't happen. Like Amazon wouldn't have happened if government wasn't involved because they wouldn't have the competitive advantage. Now, if they have the better system, they're going to be dominant as long as other companies are allowed to come into the market, as long as Amazon is not doing something that would disallow. They don't have some kind of either horizontal or vertical monopoly, making it impossible for anybody else to enter into the market, in which, that's where you have antitrust and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when you have, if XYZ was to come up with a better system than Amazon would, people would go, hey, I can order that same package, get it in the same amount of time for $2 cheaper. Mm-hmm. That's when it makes a difference. And that does efficiency in the system.
Yeah.
But the problem is when you look at free markets, you have to look at it from a distance. Because when you start getting close up, yes, there are going to be some bad beats someplace in there. There may be a time frame when Amazon does, it is able to do that and somebody isn't able to compete because they're a better company. As long as the government isn't picking a winner on that, then you got to kind of let it run its course. Because eventually something better will come along.
Yeah, and the article I read was about how Jeff Bezos has so much money that it's almost like he has to find things to do with it. And so just for fun, basically, for over $1 billion, he funded Blue Origin, which is a private space agency. So, he's launching rockets just for the fun of it. And the argument was, if you have enough money just to throw at a pet project, could you better serve the workers in your environment and kind of increase their life? And
I can see that.
There was an interview with Jeff Bezos where he basically said, in a roundabout way, I have so much money I don't know what to do with it, so I'm throwing it at this, rather than improving the lives of his workers that seem to be in subpar conditions. And it was talking about some of the robots that they're putting in the warehouse to try to do some of the automated picking. And it had 2 warehouses that sprayed employees with bear spray, not once, but twice. The first one was a forklift like an automated forklift that stabbed a case of bear spray, and it got into the air conditioning system. Yeah. And so the entire building, they got sick. And then the next one was one of the automated robots that rolled over a can of bear spray
and popped it. But really, that almost seems like a Python sketch or something like that. But it
was on John Oliver, which is hilarious. Yeah. Because of course they hyped it up and everything.
And he does that thing where he looks at the camera and you're like, yeah.
Yeah. And they have a commercial, like Amazon has a commercial of going through the warehouse and the employees are so happy. It looks like North Korea where they're trying to portray happiness, and there's a conveyor belt of thousands of packages going by, and they're like, "Oh, Mary, don't you want to give that package a hug?" "Oh, yeah." And she hugs it and kisses it and sending it's on its way. And John Oliver's like, "Come on now." Yeah. And so they parodied their real commercial, and it was, guys saying like, "I haven't gone to the bathroom in 10 hours, so I'm just going to go in my pants."
But, Tyler, this is something that I use, and I'm not saying, could they, if they're making that much profit, why not put it back into their employees and make their employees better? But as well as I do, they're going to hire the employees that can do the job at the lowest rate that they can. That's their job. Now,
and I don't think there's another way for them to ship a cat sweater by tomorrow if I wanted. I think they have to do what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree, in order to make a profit.
Yeah.
Now, this is the example I give, and I know it's going to make people mad. It goes back to the old argument of labor or how hard did you work? And how much do you get paid? So let's say, for instance, we got two guys. You tell me which one of these two guys worked, quote unquote, worked harder. Mm-hmm. You got a guy sitting in front of his computer. He's typing code. And every now and then he drinks his, Mountain Dew and eats a slice of pizza, and he's typing code. That code, once he writes it, we'll say it's in the gaming industry, and he goes out and he makes a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Now, he was in the air conditioner. He had his drink. He had his thing. He didn't have to sweat. He can get up and stretch and go to the bathroom when he wants to. Another dude goes into my backyard, starts digging a hole with a shovel. He digs freaking 8 hours with a freaking shovel, no breaks.
Yeah.
Who worked harder?
So the guy outside physically worked harder. The guy inside had a bigger return.
So therein lies the problem. This is always the argument. When it comes to labor, it's not how hard you work. It's what did you produce?
Yeah.
A worker at Amazon's factory picking packages and dropping them where they need to be. What did you produce? Do I want these guys, want them? Now, if there is a certain skill that they have, and I don't know because I don't know what they do. Yeah. There may be some complicated skill, that there may be some training and learning that they have to go through to do it.
It sounds like it's just staying on your feet and picking up.
And you know what? If enough people decided, I don't want to do that for the price that you are paying me, what would happen they would have to pay more.
Right.
But like the guy said,
there's
I've got
a waiting list
lined up out the door. Now, it doesn't have to be $15 an hour. I don't know. Amazon, let's say Amazon only offers $10 an hour, but then they've got, free healthcare, that's,
there could
they'll
be
pay for you and your family. What other compensations do you have for it? Maybe Amazon says, look, we're going to pay you this, but you can work at whatever time of day you want to work. There's other compensations besides just dollar figures, but to make it easier to talk about. Yeah. And that's what you have to realize. And that's,
I really
I've got some books you need to read.
Yeah.
There are some books
you have to give me the audio book.
Okay. and they all on there. But if you haven't read Hazlitt's Economics in One Lesson, Henry Hazlitt, I wrote some of them down.
Yeah.
You've never
give us your list there that you're
these are some people, I know that you're a Republican, different levels, but some people that I like, that I have read, that have led to, and I've read a lot. I've read Marx.
It's good to learn.
I've read Keynes.
Yeah.
Where all the Keynesian economics come from.
Yeah. Just like if you're a Christian, it's good to read the other religions.
Absolutely. So you know what the basis is.
Yeah.
But anything by Milton Friedman is excellent. Anything by Dr. Thomas Sowell is amazing. Those are two guys. Two seminal, F.A. Hayek's The Road to Modern Serfdom.
Okay.
Of course, it is almost a thesis. You can't, to me, I wasn't able to just sit down and read it. You just got to pick pieces or, find the examples and stuff in there, because it's almost like an economic book. It's almost like a research paper or something like that.
Maybe like a textbook.
Yeah, really and truly. But it's if you can pick out the pieces or even just get it. I don't know if the audiobook, that would be good. But Ludwig von Mises, he's an Austrian school of economics. Mm-hmm. That's somebody else that's big. You've got a couple of different kinds of economics, and you've got Keynesian economics, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was F.A. Hayek.
Okay.
Now, Keynesian economics is the Fed kind of, hey, the government can make the economy go. Monetary policy,
Federal Reserve.
Hey, you know what? If we want to make the economy better, so let's print a bunch of money and put a bunch of money into the economy, and that will generate people wanting to spend more because they'll have more.
Yeah.
Get some hyperinflation going. So
pretty soon.
But really, when you think about that, it's because, hey, if I see, oh God, they're printing a whole bunch of money, I better buy my bread now. I can't wait a day because tomorrow, the bread I could buy with $1, I have to pay $1,000 tomorrow.
Yeah.
I know it's hyperbolic.
Yeah. And that's almost not crazy when you're talking about cryptocurrency and how much it fluctuates. I'm going to have a couple of cryptocurrency
I'd love to hear that.
Experts in here on the show later. And that's going to be a really exciting episode because they're riding those cycles. And some of them I know personally, and we're close enough for them to show me their app and stuff, and they've made some legitimate money, but it seems just like
I've got to get a Bitcoin wallet.
Yeah.
I have got to. I would love to start doing, even if it's just microtransactions, because when you think about it, it's.
I did it during the boom. I just did $500, which was if something happened, I wasn't going to miss it. But it's kind of
as far as I'm to understand, the stuff that I have read on it. However many Bitcoin or pieces of Bitcoin you got for $500, don't do anything with it.
Right.
Because in 30 years, if Bitcoin pans out, $500 could be $500 million. Yeah, I know it's once again hyperbolic.
Yeah, but, and especially at the beginning, if someone did $500 in the beginning, then that's
because from what I understand, Bitcoin itself is actually going to stop.
Right, there's only a certain amount out there.
Number of Bitcoin that they're going to produce, and they release so many every so often.
Yeah, there's a market cap.
Yeah, there's a market cap, which is just like essentially. I know essentially it's like gold. There's a market cap theoretically on gold. I mean, you can always find some more, and what happens when another NASA thing. I read this the other day. The asteroid that they found that said there's more there's enough gold, silver, nickel, and some other relatively rare elements on it that if they were able to mine that asteroid, everybody on Earth could have like 4 tons of gold.
And other elements as well. Almost unlimited. If we were able to mine asteroids and capture them, then all of our natural resource problems would be solved. Because there's even a show right now called The Expanse. Where people live on Earth, people live on Mars, and then there's called belters. Yep. And the belters live on the asteroid belt, and they mine. And it's interesting, some of the facts that they got right, where the belters are very frail and tall because they're living in microgravity. Yep. So their growth isn't stunted like it is for us. And then they kind of gave Mars the personality of like war and fighting,
almost the old Greek,
like a military,
like
the Roman god Mars, God of war.
And then that's and really and truly, here's the problem: having done engineering. And this will go into, if we can get into the old renewable resources and stuff like that too, because the same principle applies to that. On Earth, there's only so much energy that you can have, that there's only so much raw material that you can use. And I know that leads towards that environmental side of it, but it's an argument that at least that we did the math on, it has to do with efficiency of machines and stuff like that. It's like, for instance, I said, if to replace the power output using solar panels in the U.S., and I can't remember exactly. It was a piece of the U.S. It wasn't even the whole U.S. To reproduce using solar panels. There's not enough sand on all of the beaches in all of the world. There's not enough silicon on the Earth to produce enough solar panels to reproduce the amount of energy that's
required.
Required.
And there's different levels on this.
If I got that right, I could be wrong.
There's
post a comment if I'm wrong.
There'll be somebody out there, but there's different levels of energy usage that kind of an astrophysicist and mathematician came up with of civilized societies, like thinking of other planets and things like that. And it would be the level that we're at right now is where you're harvesting energy from your planet, but we don't harvest all the energy that it's potentially capable of. And then next you would move on to harvesting the energy of your
star.
sun. Yeah, the star.
Yep.
And that's basically where you'd build a structure around the star.
And you're using all the energy off
a
that
Dyson
star.
sphere.
Yeah.
Then you would move on to harvesting all the energy in your local solar system, and then harvesting all the energy from your galaxy. And that would be like the most advanced civilization.
And really and truly, and I don't doubt. Every time people think things are impossible, the only people that don't listen to it are the people that are doing it. Mm-hmm. That's what you kind of have to realize, is that lots of people say things are impossible, but are they really, or do we just not have we not figured out the way to do it? But as of right now, and that's what I'm using as a technology, because the problem is that all of these, and efficiency will increase when people, and maybe eventually we can, mm-hmm. which I would love. I mean, who wouldn't want that? But you got the other problems of, like, they talk about wind power or solar power or whatever it is. The problem, the problem that you have with oil and petroleum-based products is energy density. Mm-hmm. I can take 10 gallons of gasoline in an inefficient car, because it's not even a super efficient car. We're not talking about like something that's made for super efficiency. We're talking about cars we drive.
Yeah,
gotta
average
have comfort,
car, 25 miles
cup
a gallon.
holders, and all that kind of stuff. How far can you drive on 10 gallons of gasoline?
Yeah, probably about 25 miles per gallon.
So energy dense. And you know what? Let's say you're using an electric car.
Yeah.
I can't pop into the electric gas station and fill my tank up in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's going to take 5-6 hours. Now, will eventually fast feeds be something that we can, that will develop? Sure. Yeah. Will it be a combination of some of that stuff? Maybe. Mm-hmm. But it's, that to me is,
I really hope that we
you got to be thoughtful on that kind of stuff and think it all the way through.
Yeah. I hope in my lifetime we can really harness fusion and maybe hydrogen fuel cells. Honestly, I'm a big proponent of even fission reactions. Oh, me
nuclear
too.
reaction. I don't, I know Fukushima, and I watched Chernobyl too. It was an excellent thing.
Yeah.
But when they built the reactors in Chernobyl, the Western scientists were like, that's going to explode.
Yeah.
That your reactor that the Russian scientists knew, like, look, this is not safe.
Yeah. When done correctly, it's clean because it just has steam. That's the only byproduct.
And the byproduct of your nuclear waste, and where are you going to store that,
Right.
But
probably we just shoot it off into space.
Yeah. I thought about that too. The only problem you have with that is how heavy it is.
Yeah, it is. Uranium is very heavy.
It's,
now, when I was a kid, I proposed, when you're a kid, you really think you're going to struggle in life with the Bermuda Triangle.
Oh, yeah.
And quicksand.
Yeah.
And
horrible.
Turns out I've, flown right through the Bermuda Triangle. But I was like, why are we not, and surely as a kid, I thought, I'm not the smartest person on earth. Why hasn't anyone thought of this? About putting all the trash on a barge and floating it into the Bermuda Triangle, because
it would just disappear.
every other show on TBS and TNT that was coming on in the summer was, unsolved mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle. And I thought that there was just planes and ships disappearing every week, and turns out there's not. So.
Yeah, and but here's the thing is and I agree, I love little kid ideas, because it's funny, every now and then you go,
sometimes there's a good one.
That's what you say. Yeah. Some of those little kids are pretty sharp.
Yeah.
But it's funny whenever when you do that, you got to just think through the practical aspects of a lot of that stuff. And I think we should be good conservators of the earth. Mm-hmm. But some of the radical stuff that they want, I like deodorant.
Yeah.
And I like taking a shower every day, and
right.
Just stuff like that.
I think that our lifespans are too short for people to really worry about it.
Yeah, Tyler, you said something. That's a big statement right there. I 100% agree, because humans have that. They don't have a collective memory.
Right.
As much as some people would like you to think that there's a collective memory out there, there's no
if we lived 500 years or 1,000 years, and during that lifetime you only had the same amount of kids, like 1 or 2 kids, then people would think a lot differently about what they do.
Yeah. Yes. And you think about, with all those people, and I go back to that hubris of modern man. You think that we're so much more advanced and so much more intelligent. We're not.
Yeah.
We have more tools available to us. The possibility of having more knowledge, but the intellect to integrate that knowledge and to use it is the same as it has been for the last 100,000 years or whatever.
Yeah, because with me being 37 and other people that are middle-aged, like China pollutes a lot. If we just snapped our fingers and made every country pollute just as much as China, we're still fine. Yeah. We could live out the rest of our life, and it's really not going to matter. Yeah. But if we had a lifespan of 500 years, then...
See, and I agree. And you think about this. It's easy for us... Man, I can get off into, this is... I don't want to start doing... but think about if you live in India and you have the potential to become middle class, do you care what you're... you don't care.
Right.
Why should you? It's a rich people problem.
Yeah.
That's why they're banning straws in California, because it's a rich people problem, because they want to feel like they're contributing, but it's not them. It's like with China. If you give somebody that lives in China, which they are, there's a huge, China's the,
it's the manufacturing.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you now, China's that sleeping dragon, baby.
Yeah, because all the products we have that are made in China or that you order from Wish and they take a month to get here, and it's like I think my daughter ordered 3 phone cases for $1.
Yeah,
and it took 4 weeks to get here, and all those China, they have factories that are pumping out coal smoke for all that stuff that they're creating, all that plastic and all that rubber.
But here's the thing, though, talking about China. And they do produce a lot of stuff. And everybody's like, man, China they're taking our industry, and really it's actually a national defense problem. Like there are certain, at one time I worked at Olmsted designing heat exchangers, or actually doing estimations for heat exchangers. But, and anything that was too big, we had to farm out to Korea because there's no one in the U.S. that can produce something that big. But here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. You're right. China makes more phone cases and they make more, clothes and
consumer
they make more shoes.
Products.
But you know what they don't make? They don't make supercomputers, and they don't make Boeing jets.
Yeah.
And they don't make as high advanced in
Teslas.
The high end technical stuff. They don't make that stuff. Now, are they working on it and trying to do that? Yeah. But they haven't even built their own. They have
most of it. They steal probably the intellectual property.
So it's a huge problem, huge problem. But think about this. China's I want to say, other than us and Russia, and maybe, I can't remember, Britain still has one.
And with computers, probably Japan would be more.
But I was going to say is that China has one aircraft carrier.
Right. Yeah. We actually have more aircraft carriers than every country combined.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And and you know what? I know I'm not a big tax and spend kind of, I'm not but as far as force projection goes, build 2 more.
Yeah, for sure. Because the aircraft carriers really minimized having to have bases all over the world, because when you've got a floating city that's armored, you can set up shop anywhere.
I can move. You know what? If I need 2 military bases there, I can have them there in a week or 2 weeks. But honestly, my conservative side, my libertarian side says, get out of everybody's business.
Yeah.
But you can't. You got to be a pragmatist. And you said this the other day, talking to one of your guys that you were talking to, is that you're a pragmatist. And that's what Reagan said. He said, I'm not conservative, I'm not liberal, I'm a pragmatist. I want to do what can get done, needs to get done.
The common sense, what makes the most sense. Schwarzenegger was kind of like that as a governor. He was, I really liked him because he was a Republican, being an immigrant, things, but he really just looked at common sense. Now, he had a lot of liberal influence because he was in California.
Yeah, that and the fact that he's married to a Kennedy.
Yeah,
that makes it, that can do it too. But even though I honestly feel, and I had this argument with a liberal friend of mine the other day, Kennedy he'd be a Republican at this point. He'd be a moderate Republican.
Yeah, he was always one of the most likable Democrats by the Republicans. Yeah,
that's
mainly because he was kind of the middle finger to the big government and the Federal Reserve.
Well, he was, conspiracy theories aside,
I got to stand at the window of the book
school
depository. Yeah, I went to the museum and could see the X on the highway. And I really got chills standing behind that window and seeing a replica of the rifle. And it's a lot of people think, the magic bullet and how it happened. Man, it's a super close shot.
Like if you've shot a rifle before, you're like, we're from Texas. I can guarantee you can make that shot. If you know
anything about hunting and the ranges that your friends are knocking down deer with a trained sniper with the scope. Oh man, it was so. I mean, I could throw a rock at it. That's out the window.
A lot of people don't realize that.
Probably with a bow and arrow could have hit it, and he wasn't. He wasn't going fast.
Tyler, you've been to Washington, huh?
Yes,
DC?
I have. Yeah.
Want to? Anybody who hasn't been to DC, you want to get some chills? Go into National Archives.
Yeah, I haven't been there. I toured all the outside monuments, and
when you see the freaking Constitution,
in
the
person,
Declaration. Have you ever, I tell you this, if you've ever read the freaking Declaration, just if you know it, if you know your language and if you just stop, it's just chilling as how much forethought those guys had.
Right.
You think Jefferson and Franklin and, Madison and, who's the guy that the other day that they were talking about, the physician? Oh God. But all those guys, and they listened to they read their John Locke and they read their Rousseau, and they're into they knew their natural philosophers, and they knew their the rights of man, and it just really, really, when you look at, it's just such an amazing document.
So what's your thoughts on if you could put Thomas Jefferson in a time machine, bring him to 2019 and say, hey, we didn't change anything. We're still going by what you wrote with a feather. What would his reaction be?
He would probably think we're freaking insane. Because Jefferson was one of those guys who said, I believe as Jefferson said, there should be a revolution about every 20 years.
Yeah.
Because people in government are going to be corrupt.
That's my thought. My thought is that you'd fast forward and he would look around and say...
Oh, if he looked at what we were doing now... Well, it's funny. I saw a meme the other day. It's George Washington said, me and my buddies would be stacking bodies by this time.
Yeah.
And you're like, they went to war over... And I know it was a whole list of grievances, and it's all written out in the Declaration of Independence as far as their grievances go. Yeah. And really, it's a government that wouldn't listen to them. Mm-hmm. But... they went to war over 3% tax on tea and no representation in Parliament.
I would prefer the states to be bigger than the federal government, because the states created the federal government, and then the federal government grew beyond the states.
Well, and this is going to be another touchy subject, but that's what the Civil War was kind of fought over. And I don't necessarily prescribe to this, but I have some friends that, we get into the whole, go into the whole deep subject on it, but you think about it, and God, I love America, so don't take this the wrong way at all. I don't want to live, as a true Southern man who had 4 relatives fight on the Confederate side in the, a couple of them in the 38th Alabama Infantry Regiment, got documentation. I'm glad, it's hard for me to say this, but I'm glad that the South lost, because I wouldn't want to live any place other than America.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and America might not have been America if the South...
Exactly, because it wouldn't be. It would be a split territory. But the South, would in a purely academic way of looking at it, the states formed the federal government, and it was a conglomeration of states. It's the United States of America. All the southern states were doing was exercising their constitutional right to no longer be a part of this union. Mm-hmm. And somebody said, once you've joined us, you can't leave us. There's another group that says the same thing. The mafia says the same thing.
Oh, yeah. Once you're in, you're in for life.
Once you're in, you're in for life.
Yeah.
Once you're a state, you're not allowed to leave.
There's no getting out.
There's no getting out. Yeah. So now I've heard that analogy before, and I'm like, okay. Once again, that's hyperbole.
Yeah.
So, but, but I can see the distinctions there. That's my libertarian side coming in. Well, it's like this border crisis. You want to end the border crisis? I can end it just like that. Do away with welfare. Mm. When nothing's free, nobody comes over the border.
That's true.
Now, as a libertarian thinking guy, let's not have a border.
I would say,
let the free labor move accordingly, but you can't do that because then you're no longer a nation.
I would say Canadians and Americans kind of live same
yeah.
middle class, pretty similar as far as wages and jobs. And there's not a influx of Canadians trying to come over here. There's almost no border security between us and Canada.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's all in the south.
I was listening to a border guy the other day, and they said actually the Canadian border is better patrolled than the Mexican border because the Canadians do their part.
Yeah.
The Canadians monitor their border just like we do. And you can't.
I heard that Canada actually has a great border. It's called the United States.
Yes, that's right. That's right. But and really, you hate to say this, but the people let's do this. Let's build a wall, enforce our immigration policies, and double the number of immigration. Let's triple the number of immigrants that we allow in every year. Let's do away with A1s and all that. Just have a merit-based system and triple the number of immigrants that come into it. I'm fine with that, 100%. Like I said, I love people from different areas. I love their culture. Come in, assimilate into the American culture. Keep keep the parts that are good about your heritage.
Yeah.
I have friends that are you name it. They're from all over the world. Eastern European. Latin America, Mexico, Chinese, all the Asian countries. Come bring your culture here, but assimilate into the American culture.
Yeah, because it's weird, especially when they're fleeing their nation because something bad happened and they're trying to, wave their flag forcefully. And I'm thinking you're running away from that flag to come here.
That's right.
So why don't you want to embrace
and as long as I can understand because it's part of their identity is that's where they're from. But when you start trying to fly a different flag than the American flag, if you want to fly them and say, look, I am an American, it be it born or naturalized, either way. But I'm a huge proponent of like Teddy Roosevelt. It's like there are no hyphenated Americans.
Right. Yeah.
My black friends, you think about it, the guys that we work out with every day. I don't see them any different. They're just people. I love those guys.
Right. Yeah.
There's Vietnamese, there's black, there's Chinese, there's Mexican, there's Guatemalan, there's, you name it. They're, all from all over the world.
Yeah.
And we love those guys. I mean, we're in there, we're friends and everything. And that's the way it needs to be.
Yeah.
But they're Americans, and that to me is that's what they are.
Yeah.
And so let's not separate it. But that's what politics is, isn't it? Separating people.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, but
well, Eddie, my friend,
hey, not a problem. Look, we can sit here and bounce this stuff all over. I know the last part of it we just ran off on tangents. I probably got myself in trouble, but.
Well, we can wrap this up. You got any final thoughts for the youngsters out there that you want to leave some wisdom with?
Only thing I can think is the same kind of stuff that Jody and Damon. I know that there's tough stuff and everything. Life is good. Celebrate life. Celebrate being alive. You're gonna have good days and bad days. Just try to stack more good days. Do good things. Be nice to people.
I think that's it, man.
Hey, brother.
Positive
I enjoyed
vibes.
it. I hope you had me back. I had a good time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Welcome back anytime.
Absolutely, dude.
All right.
Good deal, man.
Thanks, everybody. All right, great episode, Eddie. Thanks for coming on. Well, I'm kind of a man about town, so if you're looking to find me, here's where I'll be. Thursday, August the 8th. We've got the Southeast Texas Young Professionals Networking After Hours at Del Papa Distributing, 5:30 p.m. You do not have to be a member, of YPO to take part in this event, so come check it out. We're not going to be drinking water at Del Papa, that's for sure. Friday, August the 9th, Spice of the Season at Event Center downtown. That's hosted by the Greater Beaumont Chamber of Commerce. It's a huge theme party. I think this year is game night, so people are going to be dressed up like different board game characters, lots of Monopoly characters and stuff like that. It's always a great time. So thanks for tuning in. I'm Tyler, host of the Tyler Knows Everything podcast, where the nose is crossed out because I always want to learn more. See you next time.